Okay, so today we have Ryan Dumas on the podcast. Ryan has been someone that I think a lot of people that know him look up to him just because you've had such incredible growth in the last few years in like the commercial real estate space. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, where how you started to where you are now, and maybe some of the key things that you would give to someone that's looking to get to where you're at now and has maybe no commercial real estate experience.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I appreciate that being looked up to because a lot of people I looked up to this past 3, 4 years of getting into the commercial real estate and everything. But where should I start off at? So
What got you into commercial real estate, like before you started
yeah.
owning, I guess, right?
So I guess the last 10, 11 years I've been doing commercial finance
Mm-hmm.
and looking at people's personal finance statements and talking to them and they're not working a 9 to 5 job but they might work 24 hours off and on, but just seeing what they do and how they do it and seeing that they can go to their kids' soccer games, their kids' sporting events, they can take off lunch 2, 3, 4 hours. They had their own schedule, the financial freedom that they have. So that was one of the things that I saw in it. And for a while, I was like, oh, I can just do this, do the financing and that. So that's where I'm at now is still doing the commercial financing. And this last, 13 months, we've been, able to raise capital and do asset management for our deals. And we've closed on 12 deals now. So, but it was always going to those conferences, going to the conventions for financing. And then just, I want to get into it. I want to get my feet wet. I want to get into this investing side. That's kind of where I start off at. And, kind of the rest from there has been kind of history. So.
What did you notice when you were looking at their, their PFS, their personal financial statements? What did you see the common themes, right, of these people that maybe had higher net worth and were able to work with you?
Well, I saw that they're all into real estate. So,
Mm-hmm.
it don't matter if you make 50,000 a year, 100,000 a year, 200,000 a year, you usually you spend that. If you make 200,000 a year and your expenses are 100,000, hopefully you can invest and save 100K, or most people say, 10 to 20% a year. But usually people that make 50, 60K a year, they're not usually saving that 10 to $20,000, but they're all into real estate. And that's what I was doing. I was financing real estate. But if I was financing and making whatever 100 to 300,000 a year, I wasn't into real estate as much then. And it's like, oh, how can I put 25K here? How can I put 50K here? How can I keep investing this money? And I've invested into stocks and crypto and everything else, and they all went belly up. And, I think you can do the same thing in real estate, but with a really good, solid team and a lot of the experience and a lot of the knowledge that I was doing while I was at these conferences. And if I was a vendor at these events and nobody was in the hallways, I would go back in and listen to everything that was going on. But back to the personal finance statement, it just kept getting larger and larger and larger every year, especially the ones that were syndicating deals and closing on 3, 4, 5, 6 deals a year. Their personal finance statement, their liquidity and their net worth kept growing each year. And
Right.
me, I want to be, financially free. I'm, not there yet. I have some partners that are, so I can do whatever I want with my kids and my wife and family. But we do travel a good bit, but I don't want to wait until that retirement, wait until we, make X amount a month to do it, because we can do it now. I work from home.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, you could travel and work anywhere from anywhere, really. So another thing has to do with when you were starting out, right? So you were going to some of these conventions, as commercial finance as a lender, but what take us back to that first deal? Like, what are some of the things that you did prior to getting to that first deal that you believe helped you actually be able to acquire it?
I mean, I think also the biggest thing, I mean, are networking, um, listening to others. I'm not a big reader, so I'm not sitting there and soaked in books. But I think people that are a reader, I think it's important to read books on multifamily investing, commercial real estate, syndication, any of those books that are out there. Or like me, listen to the podcasts, go on Facebook, go to these events, listen to people speak about what you want to get into,
Hmm.
but then also networking. How do you get into it? How do what did you do to get where you're at? What did you do to, how did you fail a lot? Did you do this, that, and just asking a lot of questions and then listening. Getting into a coaching program, but again, getting into the right coaching program, and ask references, and then getting into the right masterminds. You want to be in those rooms because if you're in a room that, is $200 a month, it could be a really good room. Sometimes you're in a room where people are paying 10, 20,000, for the year. It could be not always, could be even a really good room too, because people that are paying 10, $20,000 a year aren't making 10, 20,000 a year. So it's a different kind of
Right.
clientele. And then a lot of events I was going to, I would spend 1,000, 2,000 bucks for a VIP ticket because, again, not everybody can afford a 1,000, $2,000 VIP ticket. So when you're in there, you're hanging out with people that invest, that have money, that not always close the deal, because usually it's a mixture of people that close deals or didn't close deal. But every once in a while you have people in there that spent $2,000, that's all they had, but they're really ones that are really hungry to get to that next level.
Right.
So
Right.
those are a few of the things I have done and I still do now.
Mm. And so what is your part or your role in a transaction with multifamily? I think you close self-storage, and I'm not sure if you do other things also in commercial, but um what's your part of the whole deal?
Yes, we've closed on apartments, self-storage, and the warehouse flex space. And my deal is usually the raising capital,
Hmm.
asset management, working on those weekly calls of where we're at on our vacancy, our occupancy, our capex budget, our renovations, on whatnot. Also, we're signing on some debt. We're investing into the earnest money, so we have money on the line there. Um, Not usually too much of the due diligence, or we go over the underwriting, and then other partners on our team do the opposite. They're usually finding a deal. They're usually going over the underwriting, helping out with due diligence, and then we all kind of raise the capital together. But again, a lot of that asset management falls on my business partner Madeline. She's out there leasing 5, 10, 20 units of each of our apartment complexes that we have, and she's on the marketplace, on Craigslist all the time. And then she has other people that are, working with the property managers and everything underneath us as well. But we're on those weekly calls, making sure that we're hitting that business plan.
Hmm. What have you, what are some tips you would give for asset management side? Because a lot of people talk about how to acquire and find the deal, but you don't often hear a lot of, information about the asset management and how to really make sure you're executing the business plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's every deal is different. We've had some deals where the partners are like, hey, we'll see you guys next month, whatever it is, and you know, and you have 5, 6 vacant units, depending on every asset's completely different. But if you have 10 units, they're all full, you're not raising rents too much, you can be on a monthly call. But again, if you're raising 10 of those rents, you want to be on that weekly or biweekly call, so that you're not waiting 2, 3 months to start raising rents. There's a lot that you can miss. So I think also it's benefit to have, like I said, to have those weekly calls. And then once you're close to full occupancy, once your rents are all raised, once your capex budget's mostly fulfilled, you can go to those biweekly calls. And then if it is where you're not needing to be on those calls as much, monthly. I think one thing that's big is, some people don't get on the call with their PM, their property manager. I think it's good to be on the call with the property manager at the beginning, and then the end you can just get on there as your general partners or JV partners, whoever you're with, to talk about in case you have anything to talk about that property manager, that they may not be doing something correct, that you didn't want to talk to them on there about that call. So it's always good to do that. I think that's one thing that's really important, is most people are like, oh, we had a property manager, we're good. I'm like, yes, but you're the asset manager. You got to manage the property manager. It's kind of like a assistant general manager or even a general manager. The
Hmm.
owner, if the owner is never the property, they call it absentee owner in restaurants and hotels. you got to be there, because if you have a general manager, they could be stealing from you, they could be not doing their job. But if the owner's there and they're managing the general manager, or the general manager is there managing the assistant general manager, that's when things start running smoothly. So we like to run a tight ship. And then also it makes it easier on the capital raise side, that they don't just know that we're just capital raisers, that we have a
Right.
team, and that we're running the asset management, and we're doing the job properly, and we're really with our property manager, we're going through our daily, weekly, monthly, items that we're doing.
And how have you guys found, the right property management, right? Because property management, if you select the wrong one, could highly impact the business plan. So how have you guys found the right property management groups to work with?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get lucky and they come with the asset. Sometimes one of our partners or us will go out and we'll look and we'll talk to them. We'll talk to two or three of them, and I call it get lucky. But you get on one that's really good, and you're like, wow, how do we get somebody that's really good property manager? But just having somebody that's really good at it is just taking those interviews and calling a few others that are around the area, looking at reviews. Because you see property management companies, somebody's always going to be mad about they had to pay rent. It's like, oh, I had to pay rent. But if it's on there, they're really good company to deal with. They're really good to work with, and they're 4.5, 5 stars. You can look at reviews. So again, just really going through and trying to hire the best part of management. Some areas are harder than others, but again, I think where you get more Class B, Class A assets, and it's a nicer area, less crime, you start getting better people that are property managers, because also they want to be in that area, because if it's a safe area to be in, realtors, property managers don't want to be in the area that isn't safe. They're not going to want to come to the area that at night they have to have a gun or whatever else it is. So again, you're going to have somebody that's a property manager that usually likes their job more. But you just gotta look around. Sometimes we have a property manager that we thought was doing a good job, and then there's money missing, and this with accounts that we're really on top of, and we got to go through the hiring process again. But it's not easy, but you just got to look out there, and once you have a good one, you got to hold on to them and make sure they get paid, and make sure the leasing agents are getting paid properly.
So have you found that better property management has been in the areas that are kind of Class B, Class A areas, just because they enjoy their job a little bit better than Class C?
I mean, it's a little bit of that. We do have another one that's it's in a Class B, and they look a little bit down at us because we only have X amount of units. We don't have like the 200, 300 Class A, and ours is like a Class B plus with a smaller number count. But both ways. But it really depends on what it is and how easy it is to switch over. But some people go through different property managers that are at the very beginning for the first year because they're going through a big heavy value add, and then
Hmm.
they get somebody that's that costs less, that's a little bit easier to work with later on, because then your tenants are already in, you've already increased the rents and everything else. But it just depends. I've had a little bit of both on there, but usually that's about how it works.
Mm. Are there like is there like a specific question or questions that you like to ask in the interview that makes you think, okay, they're going to be a good property management group to use?
Well, I mean, sometimes that if it's a private manager that's been on there for 20 years and everybody's names, they're scared to increase the price $50. Oh, they
Mm.
won't pay this. Mr. Jones won't pay $50 more. I'm like, okay. But we asked them, hey, here's where our NOI is, our net operating income. Here's where our business plan is. Because if you don't let them know your business plan and where you're going to be, they might not ever get there. So ask them questions about what their process is, if they're taking the tenants to the unit, if they're going to be there when they go to the unit to check into it, how many hours are they open up, what days are they open? Because some of the property managers go Monday through Friday. I'm like, well, we're 80% occupancy, we need to be open at least on Saturdays or Saturday and Sundays until we get close to being full. So a lot of those questions about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, if they're going to help us with our business plan, if we have security and all those things that need tightened up. Also, about reporting back to us about, P&Ls and balance sheets and financials. Sometimes we find out, at the beginning if they're on site or off site, because sometimes they don't want to be on site, or they do want to be on site and it's going to take up one of the units. So just a lot of questions in there of, how they operate.
Right.
Of course, the cost and how much they charge per unit, and if they charge late fees and everything else, and then their process of evictions and everything. So it can get pretty deep.
Yeah, for sure. And how did the first deal that you did, can you tell us a little bit about that deal? So like how many units was it? What area was it in? How did you find your partners? Like to just take us down kind of that the summary, I guess, of how that first one got done.
That's actually kind of funny because the first deal I did was the one that you actually toured with us.
Really? The 63
So
units?
so yeah, so we had another deal I think we were working on at the time. No, 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 no. That was the deal. So it was in South Florida, and I always like to, because people let me tour property, let me go on a Zoom, or let me do things. So we had about, I don't know, 6, 7 other people that there, you were included, to come and tour the property in Naples. So we closed on a deal over there. We still have that property. We've increased the rents quite a bit. It
Hmm.
was a mom and pop owner. It was built 2000 and 2012, 2000 and 2002, because it was like a 40 units and I think 23 at the other side. So I go down every couple of months and check on it. I had a partner that um, said, "Hey, would you like to come in and help us out on raising capital and asset management?" I'm like, "Okay, cool. Who are the partners?" I always ask that too. It's one big thing. Who the partners at it? And I was, we were a little fresh on it. At that time, we've already failed at raising capital a couple of times, and actually 3 times, because one deal was like around that COVID time where, we lost some money and everything. So, and 2 other deals. So I was like, okay, told me who the partner was, and I was like, okay, cool. Can you ask them if what they think about us coming on too? Asked who the partners were, um, and then just asked a lot of questions about the property. And then it came out to it. We were working on the property, we were raising capital, we were working on the asset managing, and raised quite a bit. And then we brought a couple other people to help out on some due diligence, asset management, and to help raise capital also. And took a little while to do it. It was my first deal, but raised a little over I think $2 million. Brought some others on to help us raise the capital and closed it up. But it was a good feeling to get it closed. Partners and everything were on there, and just rates were starting to go up at that time a little bit. Just starting to, and it was good. We got a rate cap on it as well, but we learned a lot. It was my first deal that we closed on the investing side, and made a lot of calls. So before, I was used to, when I was failing, I was just emailing it or texting it out, and hopefully people would just fill out the portal and we'd fill up. Well, that's not how it works. You'd get on there, you get on a call, you set up a Zoom with the partners, find out when they're available, and really trusting in them to get on the Zoom with us, and having time set up that I could have all my investors get on there. They can explain the deal, and that's what happened. So when you have good partners on a deal, or great partners, I would say, Javier, Danny, Lindsay, and a few others that were on there, it really helped out to push that deal to close it, because they're on there talking about the deal, talking about how we met, and now we've closed 10 deals with Danny and Lindsay since then. So it's been great.
Awesome. And so tell us a little bit about the failures you had raising capital before. Is it mainly just that you were texting and emailing out the deal? And one of the biggest shifts was that you were actually getting on a call or a Zoom with them to, explain the deal, kind of go over it? Or are there any other kind of raising capital tips that you would give to somebody that's trying to learn?
So I guess that was a big part of it, but sometimes on the investors, I would say, is the trust and relationship. So if they don't trust you, you have no relationship. Um, the deal's nothing. So you'd always talk about the deal, but now our Zooms, our calls on a new investor, or meeting up with a new investor, very easily could be talking about them, getting to know their life, what they like to do, because they might say they like golfing and boating, and, oh, I just went boating and just went fishing with the kids, or this and that, and then you're on there, you're talking about something that actually matters, because the deal might not matter as much. So once they start to have that relationship and trust, and also educating them, where your investment's at, because you find out their investments are in the bank for a couple of years making 0.5%, 1/4%, whatever it is. You find out that they have money, and sometimes the investor will tell you, hey, I don't have any money at all. And I'm like, okay, cool. I have you down as an accredited investor. Oh, well, I have a couple of $1 million in 401ks and this and that. I'm like, well, you have money. But we educate them on the, self-directed IRA that they can invest that right into, our investments. We show them on a non-aggressive way. Here's what we believe that you can make with your investments. Here's why we like the investment. Here's why us partners do a great job. Here's how we're going to asset, manage this place. Here's the property manager. Here's the rate we're getting. Here's all those things. So, just tell them about the whole deal. But again, I think educating them on, how they can make the money, but then also, getting to know them, their trust, relationship, and then telling them, how us as partners met, how many deals we've done together. And, they'll ask you, hey, have you ever messed up? Yes, we've messed up. Have you done this or that? Because I think that's one big thing, is being honest. Because some people say, oh, we've never messed up, never done anything wrong. And then also, when we send out these monthly newsletters, telling them, hey, we had a little fire at the apartment complex. This happened. Or we bought the place and we thought it was, 5% occupancy, but there was 20% delinquent. So just some of those things of being upfront and being honest, because you always do make those mistakes and everything, but yeah.
Love it. How did you find your partners that you did your first deal with? Because I think you do a lot of deals, right? You said 10 deals that you've done with a few of those partners, Danny, Lindsay. I can't remember the third name, but
Madeline's my main business partner. So Madeline's my main business partner. We met around 2019. And I know she does the behind the scenes background. She likes marketing and some of those things. And I was like, I've already worked with my wife with a business venture once, and we just decided that we can't work as a business together. But so I was like, what do I need in a partner? So guy or girl that does different stuff than I do. I like sales. I like raising capital, or I would like to. Find somebody either wants to underwrite deals, or find somebody that's like the behind the scenes marketing and data driven and all that. And that's what she was. And met her on there, and I was like, okay, cool. She seemed a good partner. Met up with her a couple of times. And then other partners were reaching out to us. We were reaching out to other partners, had a couple of failed attempts, and figured out that it wasn't good for 5 new people to be together on the first decent sized large deal. So happened to be where Javier, Danny asked me to partner up with their partner. Michelle was the one that found us, and then we all worked together and got lucky in there. And then Javier and Danny's like, hey, we're looking at some more deals. You did a great job on this. I appreciate you helping us close this up. And then I was like, hey, well, Madeline's gonna be on these calls. We're gonna be, helping out with asset management, and, didn't know her trust. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, we need this person for property management and this. Now I'm like, well, Madeline can take the call. So we were like on the calls, but then we're starting to be in more. We're in the field more. Madeline's like, hey, I can do that. They should call this company or that company, or we should do this or that. So just putting ourselves out there more often and getting in there. But yeah, we loved it. And, like I said, we've closed 12 deals, but 10 with Danny and Lindsay. We didn't know that we were going to close another or 2 more or anything, but they trusted, they believed in us. We liked working together. I love working with them. Lindsay's really good at different stuff, also underwriting, and then Danny's really good at finding deals and finding why they make sense, why they don't. And then he's really good at raising capital. So we have some of the same things we're good at, some not. But I think we work really well together. We get on our weekly calls together as a team, and it goes real well. When you have a good team, you can close a lot of deals together.
Yeah. And what did you find, Javier, Danny, and Lindsay? like somewhere specific? I don't know where you guys
No,
all
I
met.
mean, I would say this all originated from social media.
Mhm.
Social media, you're in all these groups and everything, and it's like, Ryan's out there, financing deals, but he's working on trying to get the investing side or however it comes out to, and reach out to him, or I'm trying to get into this because you're beginning when you don't have anything, you're trying.
Right.
It was all social media. Wasn't no local media. Javier's in Raleigh. Danny and Lindsay are in Chicago, and I'm in Clearwater, Florida. So it was all social media. And then
Mhm.
posting it when we were down at the property down there in Florida, where we're at, and hey, I'm going to go down here. We want to go tour the property, and we had them people, you and I think 4 or 5 others touring the property, and it was good because you have people that never been to a property, never toured a property, but then you have a couple people that have 6, 7, 8, 10,000 units. Are like, hey, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I'm like, I don't know. This is my first deal. So again, it's really good of having people smarter than you that can tell you what to do, but then it's also good to bring others up and have them see their first asset, first walkthrough. But
Right. 100%. And how have you provided value like to the people that have, a lot more units than you, or like you said, are just more experienced in certain, that field? How have you provided value to them, or what did you try to do to them to show that you also could give value to them, not just
I
the other
mean,
way around?
what we did was we just put in kind of like we were talking about earlier, like, putting in the, our skills of what we had of, my business partner, Madeline, of, leasing out the units, myself of raising capital and all the consulting and the financial, doing financing and everything as on our asset management calls and everything. So just doing those couple good things, couple things that we're good at. Some people
Yeah.
think they got to be really good at finding a deal and good at underwriting and good at asset management and due diligence and bringing all the money themselves. But all you got to be is good at, 1 or 2 of these things.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
think that they just believed and trusted in us. And, once you close a deal, it's like, oh, you can do this. You will do this. That's when I think it gets a lot easier.
Yeah. And so, a lot of people I think that are starting out with multifamily or in the commercial space think about their KP because they probably don't have the net worth to be able to sign on the loan. So, what was, were you just through social media finding the person that could sign on the loan and kind of just be the key principal, or how did you go through that and trying
So I
to
think
do bigger
I think
deals?
again, and I know people say don't say luck, but we got lucky to have people on our team that already had that, that Javier and Danny had that KP responsibility. And then when Javier wasn't finding a deal or Danny was finding a deal, he's like, hey, I'm like, well, don't we need this and that for KP? Oh, I already got it. And of course, I didn't know what everybody's nets worth were and everything else, but we just happened to be on board where the KP was bringing us on and liked us. And when you get a KP slash underwriter slash capital raiser and they need your asset management and your raising capital aside, it makes it a lot easier. So
Yeah, for sure.
again, you can be on a team and, if you need a 5 million net worth, 4 million net worth, and you don't have it, then you got to look for that every time. But if you're on a team that already has it, it makes it a lot easier. But then we have it's always good to reach out to find out who has that 10, 20, 30 million net worth. But then on the agency loans, you got to, find out if it's a $10 million net worth, you got to find out where you have that 1 million liquid also. And that could be the hard part too. So again, I think we got lucky having Javier, Javier and Danny both on there that had that net worth, KP to help out and everything on there too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how have you, since you've done so many deals with the same group, I would say, um, what would you say are some of the things that you need to talk about before going into a group to make sure that it's going to be the right team for you, right? Because a lot of people, and it ends up maybe not working out down the road.
Well, some people, look into it too much of not taking the action too. But I mean, I think the biggest thing is knowing all the general partners, like knowing, because you get on a team and you think it's 2 general partners and it's like 8. Really knowing the general partners, knowing who all those general partners are, knowing what deals they've closed, knowing if they've failed at anything. My biggest thing now too is if you're doing a project and say it needs, 2 million CapEx, you want to make sure that your partners have fulfilled their CapEx budget. They've fully raised. Because I mean, we've had a couple of deals that we didn't finish the raise. Like we closed the deal, but say you need 3 million to close the deal, but you need 4 million total is what you need. Sometimes you need to raise that extra million, but make sure that your other partners have closed their deals completely. I've talked to people that for a little while it's like, oh, I need 1 million on this, I need 2 million on that, I need 2 million on this, and they have 3 or 4 deals that they're still raising on that are closed, and
Oh,
then
wow.
they're still finding more deals. So nothing bad, but you want to know what your partners are doing. Are your partners spending most of the time on their deals? They have another full-time job they're spending 40, 50, 60 hours into, and are they asset management where, I mean, oh, I can only take a call from 6 to 7 a.m. and, 5 to 6 p.m., but 5:30 to 6 I'm with my kids. I understand with your kids because that's where we like to be. But if you have a full-time job, it is harder. But you could also have somebody that is a full-time job that does really well and handles things and is doing stuff on their lunch break too. So again, you just want to make sure where everybody's priorities are. Um, but I think also just knowing all your general partners, knowing who found the deal, what everybody's roles are, because sometimes you'll get 3 people that found a deal. I'm like, how did 3 people find this deal? So just asking lots of questions, because we'll get on there and say, present a deal. Do you want to help us raise capital? Like, we'll raise capital, but we're going to do asset management as well, because you can't be just capital raisers. You got to have another title. But again, we like to make sure we're asset managing it because we want to make sure it runs well. Because some people are like, oh, we're just keeping the property manager. It's on there. I'm like, okay. I'm like, if you're increasing those rents a good bit, have you talked to them? And it's good that you keep them on and then transition. But I would definitely, already be looking at other companies possibly if you don't think they're going to work out. So,
Yeah, for sure. Um, and I wanted to talk about the transition from not doing any deals and maybe having a few failed deals and trying to make this work, and the mindset that had to change or had to shift within you to now doing, multiple deals. What are some of the thinking that had to change when you were encountering a problem or you couldn't raise what you needed, or, the deal didn't close for whatever reason? Like what's some of the new thoughts that you have now that maybe you didn't have before?
well, I really don't recall exactly, but I guarantee you I was thinking, I can't do this. I don't know if I can do this. I can't, because every time I talk to somebody now that's new or newer, well, I can't do this. I'm not good at underwriting. I'm not good at this. So I'm like, you need to change your mindset. So, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly how I was. I just don't recall it much at all, but I guarantee you. So it's one of those things that you just got to be positive. I mean, first thing in the morning, just, getting in the Word, reading the Bible, and, really getting into some, motivational quotes and everything. And that's just what gets me by. And then think of your why. Like, what's your why? Is it your family? Is it your wife, your kids? Because me, my why is my wife, my kids, and then also my mom, my dad, just trying to get them in a good position in life too, where I can help them out and get them into a safe environment too. So that'll get you to really strive hard for it, but you have to have that mindset that you can and you will do something. Because if you think I can't do this, I won't do this, I don't know how to do it, you're never going to do it. But I think it's going to those conferences and then changing you, and hearing people like Luke Wren and people speak at these events, going, "Hey, you can do this. This guy has 12 assets. This girl over here and her husband have this. You can do it too." So and hearing those things, listen to Tony Robbins, listen to everybody else. So it's really one of those things that help out. But I think it's a little bit of all those, and then just hearing people on there that were real people that are like, hey, I got 4,000 units, we closed, but you could do it too. But you have to change your mindset of I can't do this, I can't do that. So I think it's a little bit of all of that. And then, of course, once you close one deal, your mindset starts to shift and change, regardless that, oh, I can do this. I did it. I did do it. And it's not that, you're financially free from one, because of course we don't have many fees in our deals and everything else. So we're still really hungry and, waiting to close on the next deal. But I think it's a little bit about that though.
Hmm. And how many units or how many deals do you think someone needs to close in this space because to actually get to financial freedom? I know it's dependent obviously on how much you want to make and what each person considers because it's, not the same for everyone, but I feel like a lot of people think that, okay, well, if I have, a certain amount of units or I'm making, I should be making this amount, but it might be completely different once you actually underwrite it.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little different on that because I mean, if you're playing the short game and the long game, because I still have a job during the day that I can work with, but if somebody needs to offset it, and it's kind of good to reverse backtrack and going, hey, I need to make at least $60,000 a year to quit my job. Then of course you need to make about $5,000 a month roughly in cash flow, and then
Hmm.
roughly on that cash flow and that deal, 2 deals, 3 deals, 5 deals, whatever it is that you can make cash flow. That's where it is because once you hit the cash flow in that, then later on you can have more assets piling up, more cash flow coming in. Plus, if you're refinancing, cashing out, buying another one, your cash flow is going to come in more and more. Now, if you have more debt and you're not sustaining that cash flow, a little different story. But you're going to be refinancing, pulling money out. But I think it's also good to kind of see where you're at. If you make a couple hundred thousand a year, you might have to make $15,000 to $20,000 a month. But again, where do you need to be to, to financially get where you're paying your bills and all those things? Some people that make 200,000 a year, they can get by on 70 or 80 and cut their expenses. But I look at it that way. I mean, 1,000 units also as a 10% owner, because we're like 5 to 12% on our deals. I think also that where you're at on your deals is different for everybody. And I know it's kind of a question that people say, but I can be 100% of 100 units and make 200,000 a year. 200 a unit, whatever you want to call that number. But somebody else could be at 1,000 units and making the same amount of money. So it really depends on what you're doing. But then also, you know, the Class C, people can make 500, 600, $700 a month off of those. You can have Class A and have a few units, and you're only making a few $100. So it really does depend. But as long as you're making that cash flow of whatever you are to quit your day job or your 1099, whatever it may be, but to be that financially free. I do look up to our partners, Danny and Lindsay, because they are financially free, and that's where I look to be in this next year or so.
Amazing. Amazing. Um, and so you mentioned before that maybe joining like a coaching program or something. I know that you guys have some kind of a mastermind. Can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe who that is trying to help?
Yeah, I mean, we have a mastermind. It's called F7, and so we mainly talk about faith, family, and fitness. And there's 4 other F's in there too: finances, financial freedom, fun, and fearless. Usually don't get them all right, but I did. So yeah, so the 7 F's, and there's also 7 operators. So it's Lindsay, Danny, her husband and wife, Madeline, myself, and then VN, Toby, and Keisha. And we're all across the United States, and then Keisha's actually in Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's us 4, and the 3 of them have closed numerous deals together. And we meet every other week for going over deals, guest speakers, getting on there and doing breakout rooms. And then every other Wednesday, we had 2 different underwriting sessions going over apartments underwriting. And then a few hours later, going over self-storage underwriting. And then every Saturday, there's a couple people in the group that go over underwriting every single Saturday. And then we have a Facebook page. There's about 100 of us, and we go over deals. We can sponsor, KP deals for people, but we also encourage people to do JV deals on their own. So there's 2 JV deals that are going on in the group right now, and there's I think 3 or 4 other closings going on besides ours. So we encourage others to join, but we also ask them, the things that you asked me too, what to look for. Hey, make sure that you know all the general partners in there, because it could be, we might know 2, there could be 4. Know the partners in there, find out everybody's roles, see what everybody's gonna be doing. Because if nobody's gonna be doing the asset management, and that's the hardest part once you close, if you're good at it, see if you can do it. If nobody's doing it and you're not good at it, you want to find out somebody that's on there. So I mean, just some of those things in there, but we love it because we love the growth. We love to see people close their first deal, write their LOI, and for the little money that we charge per month, we're seeing people charge 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a year, and they're not always getting everything out of those groups as well. Not saying they're not, or you can't learn, because I spend $15,000 a year in my mentorship program. It's 2 events a year in Tampa called Family Mastermind. That's a really good event too. But there's people out there that just may not get out of what they get in other groups. But we're intentional. We're disciplined on it. We have a 30-day workout program for April. Keisha's been doing that. So we talk about underwriting. We talk about raising capital. We talk about finding deals. And then there's people in the groups that talk about different things they're good at. And then we introduce themselves. So it's a really good group. We like it. We've only been going on for about 3 months, and we got almost 100 members. So it's really good. We love it.
Amazing. Amazing. And so what would you tell yourself now where you're at, right? I don't know how many units you have under management right now, or with
Over 1,000.
amazing. So what would you say to someone that maybe is just about to close their first deal? Or what would you tell younger Ryan, right? Before this whole growth phase has begun?
I mean, there's a few things. If they're just getting ready to close their first deal, make sure somebody that's on it that has that asset management. Make sure they have the right property manager. There's not gonna be that perfect one, but as good as it can be. Make sure they have a good team on there. And also, I mean, I've a lot of people talk about, like, 1 or 2 people as a team. Don't be scared if it's a big project to add a third person, to add a 4th person on there, and to get less equity in the deal. But my old Ryan, I wish I could have closed something sooner or quicker, than being in my mid 40s. But maybe I wasn't. Maybe God didn't have me ready enough to close on these deals a while back too. But I think it's funny because I talk to people that are 19, 21 years old. They're closing on their first deal, or have 10, 15 units, and they're like, I want to get some big deals. I'm like, 10, 15 units at your age is awesome.
Yeah.
So, just taking action, keep networking, keep giving back, just all those things. Keep networking, and then when you really think you got it, and you've not just closed one deal, but you've closed 5, 6 deals, you closed 7 deals. Giving back, helping others out. Tell them how you closed your first deal. Bring others along with you if you need partners. So just keep doing that, and stay humble. Just because you close a deal or 10 deals, you're not better than anybody else at all. Because some people come up to me like, oh, you did this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Ryan. I'm like, what do you like? I see myself as somebody that just, that's just an investor that maybe hasn't closed a deal or closed some deals, but I don't see myself as, I have thousands of deals and I have this and I have that. I'm just Ryan that God created. How can I help you out? And
Right.
that's why I like these masterminds, because you go to these masterminds and people could have $100,000, $1 million, millions of dollars, and it doesn't make a difference of that person sitting next to somebody else that's got $5 in their pocket and negative money in the bank account. It really doesn't. We all have one thing we're good at, and we work well with others. And usually it's good to add value to somebody else, and usually they're giving back of, here, I'm good at asset management, I'm good at underwriting, let's see how we can work together.
Amazing.
Just keep going, keep networking, and you fall down, just keep getting back up again.
What networking tips would you give to people that are looking to get into this space? Like, what are some of the questions you ask people when you're networking, or what's your attitude with it?
I mean, just try not to ask the same boring questions of, how long you've been investing for, or how many units you have, just maybe even like, what wouldn't you do again, or, just some of those things. But, I've always made like 5 to 10 new calls a day. So when I was starting off, I would, have in these paid programs or in these groups on Facebook, and if there's 1,000 people in there, I would put who wants to talk about raising capital, who wants to talk about this, who's from Florida, who lives here, and I would just find a way to ask as many questions as I can. and just keep going, keep asking questions, and keep being in those rooms.
Amazing.
But I mean, there were certain questions. Sometimes I would just, ask people, hey, where do you live? What do you do? What do you do for fun? And sometimes the people for fun is different. Oh, I like going golfing, and you're not there going, oh, I'm a multifamily operator and I have 1,000 units. But usually ask people what they do for fun, where they live. And there's some people that I've talked to for a good bit that are my investors now. We just kind of had casual conversations about, how many kids you have, married. Oh, okay, cool. I'm married too. I have 4 daughters. Oh, really? How do you do 4 kids, 4 daughters? But, just a little bit different questions than just how many units you have and, where do you invest in, some of the basic questions and everything. But, just keep putting the work in and, the I'd say the coaching programs and the mentorship programs will help speed you up, but don't quit, because there was a couple times I was going to quit, and a couple mentors I had were like, "Hey, you're almost there. You're getting close." So, but surround yourselves around people that are better than you.
100%. I think that's the best way to learn. Is surround yourself with people that are just smarter and better and just more experienced, because it helps you, and then eventually it starts changing you into a better version of yourself.
And being on podcasts.
Yeah, for sure.
I was on a few podcasts during COVID, and and it was more about the financing, because I didn't have anything then, and it's talking about financing, talking about getting into investing and all that. But being in the groups, getting on a podcast, or if you do podcast, switch back and forth. But yeah, just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure. It's like just finding a way to keep moving forward. Another thing I wanted to ask you has to do with some of the deals. You said things have gone wrong, right? And so like finding out that 20% is delinquent even though there was only a 5% occupancy. So what are some of the things? Take us through at least maybe one or two things that you have learned from doing, so many deals that you didn't know before, that could help somebody.
I was ready for that one here. Just getting the list of who's late on there. Also, I think the biggest deal, and I mean, I'm on the financing side, so sometimes we'll catch it and it's last minute, and it's more of what others are not doing too. Is they'll get a rent roll for like January or February, and that's one thing that we do a lot. And like, okay, it's April, so and then they'll go ahead and they'll go, here you go. The bank will ask for it, and they go to close, and they're like, okay, we got $200,000 on earnest money that's hard, which means they're going to lose it. And now they didn't know that there was 15% of people that are paying late. Well, you didn't ask for it, and it's the beginning of the year too. And I don't think about it too. Even on the financing side, I didn't think about it as much. But people in the Class C areas too, not to get bad on it, but a lot of times will say they make $500 a week, but they'll go ahead and spend $3,000 or $4,000 on Christmas. Well, almost everybody in the Class C, C minus areas are usually late on January's rent or February's rent. So it's happening a lot, in some of the deals. So again, there's not a whole lot of, learning on that exactly for say, but, trying to get the most updated rent roll, because some people are like, oh, my other finance person said they don't need March. I just did February. I'm like, if I was buying this place and it was April, I would want the day of. I'm doing financing on an apartment right now, and they're wanting like today's date. They're like, we want April 17th or April 16th date on there. They want to see. They want to make sure there's not 2 vacant units and the occupancy is a lot lower and the debt service is off. So just getting more up to date information, I guess, is one thing. And then always, I think always, one thing that's always good, which we've kind of done, is finding out like why they want to sell. It really helps. It helps us on stuff on buying too, because we find out somebody wants to sell because they're going to retire and they're not too old. We can do seller finance with them and get around the higher rates. A couple of deals we're working on that's like a 1%, 2% rate, because you find how much money that they want, and the less money you put down the property, the more payment they're going to have. And if you can get a payment that makes sense for you, and then cash flows also for the seller too, you can get that going, hey, if I paid 6%, here's my payment. It's not going to meet debt service. But if I can pay you and pay 1% rate for 5 years or whatever it is, then it's going to make sense. And then if you're increasing rents a few $100 and you go to sell it, you're cash flowing on it, and the value is going to be much higher as well. So
Right. Yeah, I like that. And what is your buy box right now? And what are you guys looking at
I mean,
as?
yeah, on the multifamily, we are closing on a 40 unit, but mostly 50 to 175 units. We're looking more in the Midwest. We still are looking in the Southeast U.S., but we're being careful for the coastal areas because the insurance pretty much doubled, a little more than doubled in Florida and some other coastal areas. So just being careful on that. We're buying pretty heavy in Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're buying pretty heavy in Cincinnati and Dayton. We're closing on Dayton, and we're traveling up to Cincinnati Thursday to look at some 75 and some 100 unit properties up there. But I'm trying to get past the 200 unit just because the asset management, it's a little bit harder, a little vacancy, tend to fall off. And we like in that 50 to 175, 50 to 150 unit range. And then on the self storage, we like it where it's 150 unit count and up, where we could add more units, increase the rents on there.
Nice. Is it different areas for the self-storage, or is it mainly Midwest?
The different areas on there. We have one in closing on in Georgia right now. We have one we closed on a few months ago in right outside Tulsa in Collinsville. Is doing great. So we'd love to get some other stuff, somewhere around those areas. But again, it really doesn't matter too much. We're not too big on some of the non-landlord friendly areas. If it's hard to lock somebody out of there, and people that are homeless or living in them, we don't really want that, where it's harder to to do that.
Right, for sure. Makes sense. Well, Ryan, I appreciate having you on today. I think that I love seeing the trajectory of how, where you were at, and, thinking about getting into commercial and just becoming an investor, and then now to owning over 1,000 units. I mean, it's an inspiring story for sure. And so I commend you for not giving up, because I'm sure it would have been a lot easier just to give up than continue going. So I commend you on that. And what's the best place for someone if they want to get in touch with you, if they, want to follow you or join the mastermind? Where could they get more information?
I mean, anybody can just reach out and give me a text at 727-729-2647. Facebook, I am pretty full on invites and the DMs, but text is the easiest way. I do have a link for the F7. I can always shoot that out to somebody that wants it as well. But let me know if anybody has any questions about anything. Text is the best. But love to reach out and talk to you whenever I get a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you should take the number and definitely reach out to him, because Ryan has been super helpful, even with me, right? When I don't even remember how we started talking, but I do remember we started talking, and so and he's been great. So I really appreciate your help. Thank you so much for coming on, and can't wait to see what else you're going to do in the next few years.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.